Apple's 2026 Mac lineup explained. So first off, the Mac Mini. So this is the entry-level desktop Mac Apple has made. It comes with AM4 chip for $599 and AM4 Pro chip for $1,599. The Mac Mini is meant for simple workstation loads, gaming and web browsing, or making games. It is also used in AI data centers, mainly the 256GB and 16GB RAM models, because they're cheap and do a lot of AI tasks for their price. And compared to Ryzen and Intel using the Stone Age x86 architecture, the Mac Mini never throttles compared to Windows Mini PCs at that size doing the same tasks. And the M4 newer ARM architecture uses way less power, meaning less generated heat, which is how Apple was able to make such a powerful computer at that size. But it and all other Macs also have issues, mainly being no boot camp, which means that your software choices are limited compared to Windows. And the current Mac Mini released in November 2024 and got introduced in October 2024. And early models also had removable storage, but a later revision from July 2025 removed that upgrade. And in May 2026, the 64GB RAM M4 Pro and 32GB RAM M4 model got removed. Also, the 256GB storage model was removed, making the new price $799. And 512GB base storage. The next Mac is the Mac Studio. This Mac is meant for real workstation workloads. It comes with the M4 Max and the M3 Ultra, which is 3 cubic meters maxes combined for Ryzen Threadripper performance, without the noise. This Mac is usually bought by YouTubers to make videos on, but also by workstation users, or people moving from the discontinued Mac Pro to a supported platform. It's target for serious workloads, 3D work, game designer, high-end gaming, and for server use. The Mac Studio position also changed, because before the Mac Pro got discontinued, the Mac Studio was a mid-tier device. But now it's high-tier, and the Mac Mini budget low-tier. And while the Mac Mini starts at 16GB RAM, 512GB storage, and M4 as the base for $799, the Mac Studio starts at 36GB RAM and 512GB storage and M4 Max for $1,999. And for the history of the current Mac Studio model, it got introduced and released in March 2025, and nothing happened until March 2026, where it became high-tier. And in May 2026, the 128GB RAM model was removed, same for the 32GB model RAM base. But storage is the same. The next computer is the iMac, and in my opinion it's the worst deal ever. But the iMac is meant to be a home all-in-one computer, basically the standard computer. As when you buy it you get everything. Not just the charger and the box like with the Mac Mini and Studio. And the iMac comes with the M4 chip, which means it can be used for light gaming, web browsing, and making videos, but anything higher will make it overheat. But compared to the other Macs, which only downside is no Windows support, the iMac is plouged by a lot more, which is why only some people buy it. So first off, it barely has ports. The base model only has 2 Thunderbolt ports. And the power port. No headphone jack, Ethernet, or anything else. And the software support is bad too. Most iMacs get the release macOS, and then 5 or 6 updates, while a Mac Studio will easily get 7 or 8 updates. And the price is bad too. Sure, you get the keyboard and mouse, but the Mac Mini is a better deal. You can always use an iPad as display with Sidecar, and a cheap USB-C keyboard and mouse can do. But the iMac costs $1,299 for 256GB storage, 16GB RAM, and the M4. And most people that buy it are families using it as a home computer. Some YouTubers and TikTokers. But not professional workers. They buy a desktop Mac or a Mac Studio. And the history of the current iMac is that it got introduced in October 2024, a day before the Mac Mini. Later in July 2025, the M4 Pro model was removed. There was definitely a M4 Pro version sometime. And in March 2026, the iMac got pushed aside, no real updates. And in May 2026, the base storage didn't get upgraded, causing even less buyers. So this is a new device Apple released. The MacBook Neo is meant for students. Compared to all other Macs which can be used for workloads and the iMac 2 with overheating, the MacBook Neo cannot. This is because it uses the A18 Pro chip, the same chip in the iPhone 16 Pro and iPhone 16 Pro Max. But that chip was never made for macOS, so with its 8GB embedded RAM it can be great for a budget laptop, which is what Apple did. Because the specs are perfect for web browsing, doing online schoolwork, video calling in case a second lockdown comes, and playing some games. And this device is new, so everyone is buying it, like tech collectors, tech reviewers, students, home users. And me too if my videos got the deserved 100,000 views. And Apple is marketing this device crazy too, which shows that it will likely not be one time like with the iMac Pro, as some people thought that the iPhone 16e was one time too. The MacBook Neo was also released to make a budget device, as people were constantly buying the M1 MacBook Air as the budget device. But it's already 6 years old and it likely has 2 or 3 macOS updates left. But for the timeline of the current MacBook Neo, it got introduced and released in March 2026, and Apple made a lot of marketing in April 2026. So the MacBook Air is Apple's mid-range laptop. Since unlike desktops where it's messy with Apple MacBooks, it's clear. MacBook Neo budget student, MacBook Air mid-range, MacBook Pro professional tasks. The MacBook Air does come with the M5, which means it can do more than the iMac that costs $200 more, as the MacBook Air starts at $1,099 and MacBook Neo at $599. But there is nothing to really say about it. It is a casual laptop bought by YouTubers or other casual people. It can do gaming and 3D working and some other workloads, but that is about it to prevent overheating. And the MacBook Air is known for overheating, especially the Intel models. But now it's a mid-range Apple laptop. The base specs for $10.99 are 16GB RAM, 512GB storage, and the M5. There was also the 256GB model, but that was in the M4 model, not M5. And the history of the M5 MacBook Air: it was announced and released in March 2026 with the MacBook Neo. And Apple didn't change in the May spec refresh. So that's it for the MacBook Air. The MacBook Pro is a true Apple beast. It has the whole current M5 lineup. M5 Ultra will come soon. And this is currently the most powerful Mac and the most expensive base model, at $1,699. And then you get 16GB RAM, 1TB storage, and the M5. But there's more. It can be used for serious laptop workloads, gaming, and even as a mobile server with a screen. The MacBook Pro does have a bit low base RAM, because the Mac Studio for $300 more has 36GB base RAM. But most people that buy the MacBook Pro are content creators, as workstation users buy the Mac Studio or better spec Mac Mini. The MacBook Pro also gets the most updates, usually the release macOS and 6 updates for sure. Maybe 7 sometimes. But the MacBook Pro also got the M5 Pro and M5 Max update 2 in March. So that's also new, and here is the history of the current MacBook Pro. So in October 2025 it got introduced and also released. It originally had a 512GB storage model, but in March that was removed and the M5 Pro and M5 Max got introduced. And in May 2026 it didn't have any spec update. And this is it for TE MacBook Pro, and before the video ends, here are the base and Mac specs for every Mac.